Greetings and welcome to my archive of stories. My name is Wynn Budenbaum. I am joined by my mother, Rebecca Budenbaum, as she passes down a story from one generation to the next. This story is produced by Rat Things Productions. If you have a voice that needs to be heard, we've got your back. This is a student project and not a real podcast or business.
My father was a colonel in the United States Army. He worked with the 14th Quartermaster Reserve Unit in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And on February 25th, 1991, during Desert Storm, his unit was involved in a Scud hit. Dad was at his office, which was an office building in Riyadh, and they were so busy at the time that he had a cot in there. And so whenever they got the chance to take a nap, it's kind of like you see in the movies where they say, okay, you've been working for 24 hours straight, go lay down for something like that. That's basically what they were doing. He was very busy. I mean, the Middle East is a big place, and he had some people there with him, but I don't know how big his contingent was actually at the office. So the first thing they would have heard would have been the sirens. The sirens were what the city did when there was a Scud attack. And the first thing that you had to do, because it was rumored that there was chemical weapons in the Scuds, is you have to get your gear on. So that would have been the first thing he did, and everybody in his office. Then it would have hit. And they would have pinpointed where did it hit. He was told about it, and he knew exactly where they were at, the building they were sleeping in. He would have immediately taken off the gear and run over there to see what needed to be done, because those were his men. That was his job. So he jumped in his car, and whether he was driving or his XO was driving, or I don't know. So whoever he had with him would have been there, and they would have all gone down there. When he got there, him and his soldiers jumped out of the car and looked around to see what was going on. And basically they saw a burning building and everybody rushing towards it. But at the time, there was nobody going in it. The firemen were doing it, trying to do outside and everything. Dad never described the chaos. He was able to get tunnel vision, and he was able to get the chaos out of his mind so they could accomplish it. He was very, very upset about the fact that his people had been hit, and he did not want them to die. And to him, he had to do everything he could to get in there. His first instinct was go help his men. Him and his people started going into the building while it was still on fire to see if they could find survivors, bodies, whatever. And you're deadlifting them because you can't drag them through debris. So he's picking them up and he's taking them outside so they can get help. A lot of them were sleeping, so they were unconscious, couldn't help them. As more people got there, people started to tell him that he didn't need to go in there anymore because, he was a colonel. They want to make sure the colonel doesn't die in a fire. His response to them was, those are my people. I need to make sure they're out of there. They had to physically stop him after he had pulled or snapped a vertebrae because my dad was a little guy. He was only 5'8", and he only weighed maybe 180 pounds. Now, it was all muscle, but still, you're lifting soldiers that are that weight or more. By that time, they had gotten a lot of the people out. They got them as quickly as possible to the hospital, and then they laid them out, and they tagged them. Priority, not a priority. When he got to the hospital, they had all the soldiers laid out, but they didn't have any priority stickers on them. And that was when he found out that his soldiers were dying out in stretchers instead of being brought in where they could be helped and they would be okay. And that's when he stepped in and went in and talked to the commander there, who was also a colonel. Dad always believed in reprimanding in private. So I could see him taking him into a room or into his office. He basically came up with a plan for him because he said that doctor just wasn't capable at the moment to make that decision. So he told him, he said, this is what you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. Which would lead me to believe that there was some tension there. Like, this is my hospital, I do it the way I do it. And then there was Dad, who's been in combat, who says you're doing it wrong. And so I could see my dad having terse words with him. My guess is the doctor just finally said, okay, we'll do it your way. And that doctor basically told his nurses and his other doctors to do that. And then after that, the triage started working more completely. He stayed, from what I understand, through the whole thing until his soldiers were taken care of. And by the end of it, he couldn't walk. His back was hurting so bad. I think it was afterwards, probably, after it had settled down, maybe a couple days afterwards, when he finally got to rest, that's probably when it hit him. Somebody purposely sent a missile out to kill. I mean, that's like back to Vietnam battle type stuff for him. And he never talked about Vietnam with his buddies and what happened over there. I mean, it was hard for me to listen to it, because for my dad to end up with something with tears in his eyes about how upset that he was that those people died under his watch, I knew how sad and tragic it must have been to him.
That was Rebecca Bunbaum, my mother, telling a heart-wrenching story about her father in the Desert Storm War. I am Win Bunbaum. Thank you for listening. This story was told in loving memory of Colonel Joseph T. Thomas.